Well, I went to school in Gordo, Alabama. I remember being in fifth grade, and I had earlier in my elementary education some exposure to piano lessons. And the thing I remember most about that was that my mom said if I would take piano, that she'd give up smoking so we could pay for piano lessons. Good news for her was she didn't have to give up smoking very long, because that didn't work out very well. But once I got to fifth grade, I remember being in class, and our band director from the high school, which I think at that time was part-time, came in and was talking about being in a band. He was recruiting fifth and sixth graders, and I remember the thing that stuck out in my mind most was, he said, if you do band, you don't have to do PE, and I was all about that, so I thought this might be the thing for me to do. So when he asked who was interested, I was one of the first to raise my hand. I thought this will be great. So that started my musical career, my venture into the band world. Fortunately for me, Ernest Hepson was that guy that came around and introduced us to the wonderful world of band, and I couldn't have asked for a better teacher or mentor. He was a great salesman too. I remember when we started beginner band, he thought after evaluation it would be best for me to do trombone. And I got the trombone, took it home, and I got to looking at it, and I thought, that's going to be difficult to go back and forth and have on my bicycle and all that kind of stuff. And I thought, well, I'll just go in and tell him it's just too big. I can't do that because it's a logistical issue. So I go in the next day, and we're talking about it. He said, well, I understand. And long story short, when I left, I had a euphonium instead of a trombone. So to this day, I said he was a master salesman, because I went in with something much smaller than euphonium and left with that, and that was an issue. But that started a phenomenal path for me, just a tremendous blessing. I believe to this day that God put Ernest Hepson in Gordo, Alabama at that particular point in time for us kids that needed that direction, which has been something my entire career I've always tried to implement as well. I know there's a reason for people to be in certain places. And I know there are kids that need. I don't know where I would be today if it weren't for the band activity and for his guidance. But that's where everything started, and I was fortunate enough to be able to get through the rest of my elementary and high school career in the band there at Gordo. Watched it grow. There were a lot of things I saw that Ernest did that I thought, these are some fantastic things. He wasn't just teaching us how to be musicians. He was teaching us how to be great humans, citizens, responsible, hard workers. And he also instilled in us that, hey, if you want to do something bad enough, if you work hard enough, you can make it happen. There were a lot of people, and I'll try and move on from the Gordo thing a little bit later on, but there are a lot of people that the Gordo band had been, I think it was probably 13, 14, 15 members most when Ernest got there as a part-time director. And as my memory serves me, I think by the time he'd been there 3 years, he had probably developed that program to maybe 100, 115 kids in a school that had maybe, 350 kids total. And that was amazing, absolutely amazing to me. But to be a part of that and see that grow, and the pride, and I'd never been experienced to anything, or had experience with anything in my life, that you did the work and you saw the rewards. You understood what the hard work was, where you could get if you did that. And to have the support, to have someone like him, and certainly his wife Ann, it was like a team, and you knew they were your support no matter what. It didn't necessarily have to be about band. It could be about anything. You knew they were there, and you could always count on them. I mean, we had kids in the band there at Gordo. We had great family situations as well, but there was just that other area when you needed to go and talk with somebody, you knew that they would do it. And he was tough. He made sure that we did the right things. So seeing that entire thing evolve there in Gorda was amazing to me. And by the time I was in 10th grade, I was pretty sure I wanted to be a band director. Didn't know if I had the musical ability. Didn't know if I would be able to handle all the other things that I wasn't even aware that existed. But I didn't know, but that's something I wanted to be, because I knew what a difference band and the leadership that he had provided, and certainly his wife had provided for us, was something I wanted to be able to do for kids that would come along after me. And that's really what I wanted to do. I wanted to make a difference like he had done for so many of us. So that being said, from there, the next logical step was to see about getting into college and those kind of things. No one in my family had ever gone to college before, but no one had ever stood by and said, I don't think it's going to happen for you. Everybody was supportive. I applied. My best friend, Donald Coon, who was a phenomenal tuba player, he applied to go to Auburn, I applied to go to Alabama, and I never will. Ernest always had this dry wit about him too, and I never will forget the day I got my acceptance letter at the University of Alabama. Donald got his at Auburn, and we ran to the band room. And we said, you won't believe this, Mr. Hess. We got accepted. Donald's going to Auburn, I'm going to Alabama. And he didn't bat an eye, looked at us, and he said, how did y'all do that? I said, I don't know. Here again, it just had to be the intervention from God to do that, to get us in there. But yeah, from there into college, the 4 years at the University of Alabama, I was a euphonium player. Like I said earlier, Ernest had talked me into playing euphonium. I was a euphonium player until I got into college, and then for some reason that wasn't quite working like I felt like it should, and things weren't going well. I thought I was going to be a French horn player, and that didn't work very well either. So Dan Drill, who was my trombone teacher at Alabama, said one day, he said, look, we've got 3 of these 72H Con bass trombones that we just had reconditioned. Would you like to try playing one of those? And I said, sure, let's do that. And I have to mention Dan too, because when I talk about people who influenced my career, of course Ernest was the first. He and Ann were such a major part of what was going on in our young lives there in Gordo. But Dan Drill was such a phenomenal mentor as well, and great teacher, very patient. If you know Dan, you know that he's extremely patient, and he would have had to been to put up with us. And but when he mentioned bass trombone, I thought, well, yeah, we'll try that, see what happens. And he brought it in and said, look, can you play this note? And he played a pedal B flat, and I said, well, I'll try it. And I did that, and he goes, wow. Now this will give you an idea how good a shape the trombone studio was in at Alabama at that time. He said, we've never had anybody that could play a pedal B flat around here before. And I went, well, great, this is my thing. It's what I'm going to do. 2 weeks later, in for a lesson, he goes, would you like to play bass trombone in the jazz ensemble? And I'm thinking, Steve Sample's jazz ensemble? And he said, yeah. And I go, well, yeah, let's do it. So for about halfway through my freshman year, my career had shifted from euphonium to trombone, which was a great thing, because I got to play in the orchestra at Alabama, and certainly jazz ensemble, bass trombone. And in the original wind ensemble at Alabama that Earl Dunn started when he came in after Colonel Butler. You know, collegiately, and I had a great student teaching experience at Tuscaloosa High School. Bill Benton was there, and once again, Bill had an influence on my thinking and the way that I did things, and it was just a great experience. And along the way, I knew as I got further and further along, and I got more exposed to kids, and particularly had hands-on experience with kids at Tuscaloosa High School, that this is what God wanted me to do. And I tell you, I've been so blessed to have so many great things happen in my career. Great bands, kids that are just phenomenal, just outstanding players, from kids that are, I've got a former student that's principal trumpet with the Colorado Symphony. He was just a weird little guy when he was in high school, but turned out so great. But you know, God has just blessed every step of the way. And I could not have even come close, because it's, you know, just me. I would have never been able to accomplish what was accomplished under my tenure without his guidance, and boy, I just can't thank him enough. So, but getting back to where we were at the Tuscaloosa High School and being able to teach and have hands-on experience, and I knew the more I got to do it, the more that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to, work with kids and show them and give them direction and watch them grow. And fortunately for me, I guess when I was a sophomore in school at Alabama, Bill Ranello, who was band director at Eastwood Junior High in Tuscaloosa, came to me and he said, "How would you like to be on a work-study program?" And I said, "Well, what do you need me to do?" He said, "Well, you get on work-study, and instead of like a regular work-study where you'd be doing menial things around campus and stuff, you'd be coming and working with us with the band at Eastwood, teaching lessons and things of this nature." And I thought, well, that's great. That's very practical experience. And I picked up a lot of great practical things from him. I never will forget the first time I had to teach a private lesson. I think it was with a trumpet player. And I was a sophomore in college, and of course I was a brass player, so that helped out some, but I wasn't familiar with a lot of stuff to tell kids about how to do this on trumpet or that on trumpet. And he pulled me aside. He said, are you anxious about this? And I said, "Well, yeah, Bill, I kind of am." He goes, "Look, they're just kids. If you pretend like you know what you're doing, they don't know the difference." And I said, "Okay, I think I can do that." And from there, working with those kids at Eastwood Junior High, which here again, that's a little bit out of order. That was prior to going to Tuscaloosa High School. Like I said, the more I actually got to interact with kids, the better, the more fun I was having, and the more that I knew that's kind of what I was destined to do. After my student teaching experience at Tuscaloosa High School, you go through that area where you just graduated from college, and you don't really know if you're going to end up with a job or not. I was fortunate enough. I had my best friend in the world, my cousin Bill Springer, was teaching in Greenville, Mississippi at a middle school. And as soon as I graduated, I got in my car and headed to Greenville to spend time with him. And we were sitting around his apartment, and he said, "Look, I'm getting these phone calls from a guy in Birmingham. His name is Wayne Whitman, and he wants me to take Mountain Brook Junior High band." And he said, "I'm going to tell you the truth, I don't really want to take the job." And I said, "Well, do you mind if I?" He said, "Here's his number, call him." And that's where I'm headed with this. That was my first job at Mountain Brook Junior High in 1973. Once again, great group of kids. Couldn't have asked for a better situation to walk into. It was one of those where the program was down numbers-wise. I remember the first roll that I got had 42 kids on it. And I would sit every day and every afternoon and count the students on that list, hoping that there'd be 43, maybe 44, 45. I got so excited, fired up, getting ready for school to start that year, and I get there the first day of school, and the administrators come to me and they go, "We use the band room for a textbook storage area, so it's going to be about 3 days before you can start band." Well, I was crushed, but I kept counting those numbers, and I knew, I've always felt like, and I think I learned from my experience at growing up in Gordo, that kids are kids. Whatever they want to accomplish, if they want to work hard enough, they can do it. I think the thing that was instilled in my mind from day one was, don't give up. You can accomplish if you work hard enough. And I always used to tell my kids, even up to the time that I retired, if I had been on the Titanic, that last little clip, when it's turned and pointed straight down and headed down in the water, I'd have been on that rail at the top going, "I think we'll make this work." That's just what was instilled in me from day one. But I knew those kids going into Mountain Brook. I didn't know what kind of success they had. I did follow a very good teacher. John Bradley was there the year before I got there, kind of set the table for me, and that was a tremendous help. But that little band had never, that was back when we did district and state contests, and they had never qualified at district to go to state contest. And so I felt like there was really no way we were going to lose. We would work hard and we'd see what happened. And luckily for me, you know, you talk about a lot of things that go into successful band programs. It's pretty much, you know, it's your administration, it's your parents, and your kids. And I knew going in that the kids were going to be, they were going to be a pleasure to work with. Fortunately for me, the new principal at Mountain Brook Junior High, his mother and my mother worked in the same factory in Reform, Alabama. So that was a huge plus for us, and just about anything we wanted to do, he was on board. But anyway, getting back to the contest thing, that first year, 42 kids, we worked really hard, got through the district thing. Dr. Ferguson was one of the judges there, and this is something and I'm sure most young directors do it, but I would encourage you to do it. I would always take recordings of my band and take them to Dr. Ferguson and let him evaluate them, see what he thought about them. He would tell me, he could teach me, because he always said in his classes when we were in school that the time that we would attend his classes was not while we were there at the university. It was after we were out of school, and we'd pick up that phone and go, "Hey Doc, what would you do if this happened or that happened?" And so I'd always do that, and it was very similar, like to me, getting my taxes done. I'd send it to him, he'd have it a week, I'd come back and we'd take it all apart. But I remember that first time he did that for me, he sent 2 envelopes back to me. One was for the students at Mountain Brook Junior High, the other one said, "For your eyes only." And there was some stuff that was hard to grasp in that "For your eyes only" folder. As a matter of fact, he said, "You know, now that I've listened to this again, I really should have given you a no at contest." And that just, here again, inspired me. I thought, I'm going to do it. I'm going to make sure he understands that I'm going to make good on the faith that he showed in me. But anyway, we got through the district contest thing, went to state contest, got 3 1s and a 2. Never been done before. And it was awesome. And just nutshell wise, at the junior high, now I was there 5 years, and we grew from 42 kids to right at, well, just a little over 90 kids in 5 years. And it was a 2-year school, 8th and 9th grade school. Our elementary was in the, our 7th grade was in the elementary school. So we were clipping along, and every year at state contests we had managed to get at least a mixed 1, which was very good, and I was very excited about that. The fact that the program was growing, we were getting better. Something else, you know, for young directors, the approach I tried to take with the junior high was you know, there were a couple examples in the state back then of junior high bands that were just phenomenal. It was West Lawn in Huntsville, where Dr. Dwight Satterwhite was, and I had heard his band at state contests do Gladiator's Farewell, Man and Veen, and Dragoons of Alars. And it was just phenomenal. And I thought, well, you know, as far as literature is concerned, I'm going to try and push the envelope as far as that's concerned. So with that junior high band, we always attempted at least grade 4 literature. So I guess what I'm saying to younger band directors is that there's great literature out there that's available. And if you push the kids, get good literature in front of them, and then teach them, then great things will happen. But anyway, so I was there 5 years and trucking along pretty well, minding my own business. And the guy that was at the high school, another mentor of mine, Wayne Whitman, had decided he was going to head to Florida. And I can't say really enough about Wayne either, because he was a great influence and really helped guide and direct me as a young director, because I don't know how everybody else is, but when I came out of school, I didn't know a whole lot about teaching. But Wayne was there, and he was a great resource person to have. But anyway, as he headed to Florida, the superintendent came to me and he said, "Are you interested in moving to the high school?" I said, "Yes, sir, I sure am." And here again, I was all of 26, 27 years old, and didn't really know what I was getting into, but I thought, we'll give this a shot, see what happens. And we had great success with the high school band. I had heard them the year before at district, and it was a small group, but it was really good. The first year we were there, we grew that program, almost doubled in size the first year. Third year we were there, we probably marched 150 kids or so, which was phenomenal for Mountain Brook at the time. and just really, really great success. And I was enjoyed those kids and being there at Mountain Brook, which was, that's, I think, I don't know if everybody feels this way or not, but your first job that you start off with is always a special place in your heart for that particular area. And Mountain Brook was great. The parents were great to me, and my wife, and Jason, my son. I mean, we couldn't have asked for any more, and they were that way the entire time that we were there. But I was at the high school for 8 years, had a lot of success there, and then a little bit further down. So that I guess what I was going to make the connection to, that made a total of 13 years in the Mountain Brook community, which here again was great. Then a little community a little bit further down, 31 Pelham, the band job opened up, and I thought, well, I think we'll go down and we'll look at that, interview for that job. So I did. And we were living in Shelby County at the time, which seemed like it made a lot of sense to me to be in that area doing that. There were all kinds of potentials. We had a great feeder school program at River Chase. Walter Gibson was doing a phenomenal job for us. I mean, just outstanding. And I knew that the potential that was at Pelham was going to be just off the charts. And so I guess I went there. Their director left in the middle of the year, and I went in February of '86. And started looking around. There was a lot of interesting scenarios there, but a lot of things you had to get a hold of. When you come from different systems, as you guys know, there are different things you have to get acclimated to. And starting off at Mountain Brook, there were a lot of things in a county school system that I just wasn't used to, like school buses and stuff like that, because we didn't have buses in Mountain Brook. Going into that situation, once again, I knew the potential was great, and here again, I just knew that if we rolled our sleeves up and worked hard, we'd have something special there. And here again, it's one of those situations where I think the Pelham Band had been in existence since probably '73. Small school that was just built for about 700 kids at maximum potential. They didn't think it'd ever be any bigger than that. But as time moved on, we knew that was going to be different. But they had their program up and running since '73, and as best I can remember, I don't think they'd ever qualified a district to go to state contest. And the first full year I was there, we did the district contest thing, and nobody gave us a chance, and nobody thought we'd make any kind of splash or anything. Well, we qualified to go to state contest, and once again, like at Mountain Brook Junior High, I knew we didn't have anything to lose by going to state contest, and I'll be darned if those kids didn't work hard enough to get an overall 1 at state contest that year. So that was just a huge plus. And once again, all the credit to the kids, the parents that were so supportive, the administration. My principal would ask me every day, the guy that hired me when I got to Pelham, what was the key of the day? And if it was not a good day, it would be a minor key and that kind of thing. He was really so supportive of what we were doing band-wise there with the Pelham Band. And we began to see growth there too, with what Walter was doing at the middle school. And like I said, the middle school was just going big guns. They were having tremendous success. So as the years went through, the band grew and grew and grew, and every year we had, I think, the second year we were there, I think we got a 2 at state contest, but just a little bump, a little setback in the road there. We kind of moved forward from there, and after that, we never looked back. Just great, here again, great kids. The young man I mentioned earlier, it's the principal trumpet of Colorado Symphony. He was one of those. He and my son are in the same grade, came through River Chase at the same time. We have a lot of band directors that are out now that came through those 13 years that I was at Pelham High School, and just a lot of proud accomplishments from there. We even had Dr. Harry Bejan came in and did a rehearsal for us once, and that was quite a treat. I think that'd have to be one of the highlights of my career looking back. I think it was Johnny Jacobs that contacted me and said that Dr. Bejan was coming into town and was coming to look at schools and stuff and listen to bands. Would I be interested in him coming to see us? And I said I certainly would. And as it worked out, we were doing the Armenian Dances Part 1. And he was very a significant part in the whole writing of that composition, as we all know. And I thought, well, this will be a great opportunity. And we worked it out with the administration where we could have an hour and a half rehearsal period with him. And he came in, and he just, it was just a thing of beauty to watch him go to work on that podium and work with those kids. He was on the podium about 90 minutes, and he was supposed to leave at that point in time and head to Troy to the Seuss Clinic. And I remember he looked at Johnny Jacobs and he said, John, do I have to leave now? And that was, to me, it was a huge compliment. I remember him telling the kids, he said, you know, I've judged and worked with bands all over the country, and he named all the other foreign countries that he'd been in. And he said, this has to be one of the best that I've ever stood in front of. And that was just, to me, one of those moments that you look with great pride. And you know, to me it was so humbling because I understood it, you know, it wasn't me, it was the kids, the administration, the parents, and certainly Guy had a major role in that. He put all of that into place. So that was kind of the, you know, I guess during the time we were at Pelham, accomplishment-wise, we did several things. I don't know why, but we took a group to the Bahamas. That was kind of nuts. I don't know what I was thinking. We did Carnegie Hall, Bands of America. Back then, it wasn't Music for All. It was Bands of America. And I think at the time that we applied and were invited to come and do that, there had only been, I think, the Grissom Band that had done that previously to the Pelham Band coming, and that was a huge deal. That was, I guess, those guys that graduated in '96, that was my son's class. That was a really strong group for us. So just a lot of wonderful things that we experienced. And during that time too, I've talked a lot about concert band, and I do that because I know that the concert band is the nucleus that you build everything on. And I hope those of you that are youngsters that are teaching or watching, you know, what I'm saying while I'm rambling on, will understand that everything comes off of the concert band concept. All right, the better you play, the better it's going to be outside. If you can't play sitting down, chances of doing outside are not going to work. I always felt like one hand washes the other. That's why when I did the marching band thing, I spent a lot of time 8 to 5 playing scales up and down the football field. Working on the foot placement is what they thought we were doing, but that's not really it. We were working on developing their chops, you know, always in a range that was comfortable for them, that they could strengthen their chops and get good sounds. And I always insisted that we get good sounds. We didn't want that typical, like occasionally run that marching band sound, you know, when you hand a kid a marching French horn and all of a sudden it sounds, you know, like it sounds. We didn't want that. We wanted that to sound just like moving up and down the field like we did inside. So I spent a lot of time talking about the concert concepts. And here again, just remember, everything comes off of that. If you do a good job fundamentally with your marching, those long tones out there up and down the field, then that's going to complement what you do in a concert band. And you continue that concert band, then the next fall, the marching band's even better. And it just keeps building and building and building. It's really simple. It's not rocket science at all. It's very basic, all right? Fundamentals, and we talk about those a lot. And I know I've slipped from career into philosophies, but I'll talk about this for a while. Fundamentals have to be done every day. There's just no way to get around that. I see teachers that try and short circuit or go around or lessen the amount of time that we spend doing individual fundamentals every day. It's not going to work. It's a shallow approach. Fundamentals have to be there. And I'll just tell you that when I took the job at Pelham, that was my first thing. My warm-up took about, out of a 50-minute period, took about 30 minutes every day. And I remember I had a saxophone player after about a week said, "Hey man, it don't take me 30 minutes to warm up." And I thought, well, Forrest, it could be that you're not in the right place, but I stuck to it, and it paid great dividends. So yeah, work those fundamentals, and we'll get back to the marching band thing. I felt like, particularly about halfway through my career at Mountain Brook, here again, having someone come in and talk with me that knew a lot about what was going on marching band wise. I had two young gentlemen that came in, and we started discussing. We were revamping the marching aspects of things we were doing at Mountain Brook, and it was Tommy Pearson and Steve Simpson. And those guys enlightened me in areas that I had no idea, and really transformed the way that I thought about marching band, and that carried over to everything that I did further on down the line. But so, getting back to Pelham, we tried to develop, obviously, the marching band as well as the concert band. Our numbers grew, and before long, we had a pretty well balanced program as well as jazz, marching, and the concert scenarios. So it was a very successful stint there at Pelham, with great times. Like I said, my son came through the band there, and that was kind of a special thing for me. Something that we hold very, very close and very dear. And I know a lot of the guys my age have children that came through their band programs. It's just something special about that. So that was a wonderful 13 years. And if you've noticed, I did 13 at Mountain Brook, 13 at Pelham, and if you want to guess how many I did at Oak Mountain, you can, but I'll tell you it was 13. So don't know why. It seemed like I could have done one more and done 40 years, but I didn't. I just knew when it was time. So anyway, I'm at Pelham High School, and we decided that things have grown to the point in Shelby County that there has to be a new high school built, and it's going to be over in the Oak Mountain area. It's probably 2-3 miles from my house, and I thought, well, this would be a great opportunity. So I applied for that job and was given that position, and it was something that was very unique in that when you have the ability to start a program from day one, and you get to put everything in place. To me, today, even going and working over there a couple of days a week, it's such a kick to see things that were put in place originally by those parents, the administrators, myself, and see how that has continued to grow. And the program, I think we're going to be probably 250, 260 kids this fall. So it's turned into a really, really fine program. But initially bringing all that together, here again, the three elements that we talked about. We had wonderful band parents. We had parents that were coming to us from Chelsea High School, Pelham High School, John Carroll, all over the area that were coming back to our community to go to school, to see all that meld together and see how they came together and work. And I never will forget the guy that was the band booster president. We had a meeting. We were talking about funding and everything, because when we build schools in Shelby County, the first thing they want to do is they'll say, well, let's go and we can take X number of instruments from Pelham High School. And I said, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to be our own entity. We're not going to take equipment from somebody that's already established. That's just not the right thing to do. So we didn't do it, but get back to what I was saying. We were talking about money and what we were going to do. We knew we were going to have equipment, and we were looking at a $250,000 lease. And I thought, I don't know if these folks are going to go along with this or not. I just have no idea. And we had the meeting, went smooth, everything, and the booster president and I were walking out afterwards, and he said, Jim, do you think that's enough? Because if it's not, we can do more. He said, I'd rather have this stuff and have it sitting, collecting dust, than to need it at some point in time and not have it. So that's kind of an idea of where their mental state was and their willingness to work and help us get started. But here again, we had a great principal, a guy that was really, really bright, really smart, understood how things worked. Parents were phenomenal. Kids were just outstanding. And I think we started that first year with 101 wind and percussion players. We had about 50 visual kids, so that was a pretty good start for us. And but here again, back then we had the district and the state thing, and we did well at district. Got ones at state contest, and I don't believe the band's got anything less than a one since then. And here again, great kids that we've seen be so successful and out and about doing their things, whether it was music or not. And to me, like I said when we started, the important thing was that we had kids that would grow up to be responsible adults, great citizens, do the right thing, work hard, and understand about the results of that hard work. And that was the objective from day one. And I always felt like the music would take care of itself, and you know what, it really did. It really did. So that's kind of my career in a nutshell. Like I said, I did 13 years there at Oak Mountain as well, and now I'm going back and helping out a couple of days a week as I can.
During your careers, did you run into situations where you had scheduling issues, or well, you've already mentioned financial stuff, but young folks now, they're still dealing with a lot of the same type problems, you know, from,
Right.
you know, scheduling is a problem, finances are a problem, relationship with parents and administrators. And, you know, of course, the young director's sitting there, all, you know, bewildered, you know, what do I do? And what would you say to that person?
Well, the scheduling was always something that, you know, there are areas that as a teacher you need to be in real well with, like your guidance people. That's just paramount that you be in good standing with them so that they can help you out, because they can be a tremendous ally or they can be your worst enemy, and you don't want the latter. So that's what we always tried to do. I think at my last two at Pelham and at Oak Mountain, administrative folks were guidance folks were just phenomenal. They were always there to help whatever we needed doing. So we could kind of get around scheduling issues if we had some of those things. Now some we couldn't. I had a student at Oak Mountain when I first went there that was an outstanding flute player, a really bright kid, and I knew that we needed her in our program. She's the type kid that we wanted, and unfortunately for us, she was a very good volleyball player too. And I went to the coach, the volleyball coach, and I said, "Is there?" Because the rehearsals her practice conflicted with our marching band rehearsals after school. And I said, "Is there something we can do, Coach, to make this work?" And she looked at me. She said, "Well, you know, sometimes kids just have to make a choice." And I thought, no, I'm not real sure about this. So I called the student's mom and I said, "You know, here's what we need to do." And so we were able to work it out. We worked out where Soph could come and do our rehearsals with us briefly on Friday before we went to games, and she was smart enough she didn't have an issue with that, so we handled all that. But there are ways, if you want to get around something bad enough, I've always found out you can do it. It might require extra work, you know, extra preparation, extra thinking, but there are ways to get around usually most every situation that comes up.